Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Rage Against the Regime Radio, where status quo is taken to task. With your host, Bobby Who's the Man. Don't be a stranger. Give us a call at 929-477-3565 or contact us at rageagainsttheregimepodcast@gmail.com or on our Twitter.
Please take all the necessary precautions to protect your Constitution while listening to this broadcast. 3, 2, 1. Coming to you live via the internet. It's time for Rage Against the Regime. Finally, a show for patriots, defending the Constitution and uncovering the truth at every turn, bringing you exclusive interviews and covering the topics the mainstream media doesn't dare to touch. Call in and join the discussion at 929-477-3565. That's 929-477-3565. And now, here are your hosts, Bobby Who's the Man and Becky Williams. Rage Against the Regime.
I'm the man, I'm the man.
Gathered in their masses, just like witches at black masses. Evil minds that plot destruction, sorcerer of death's construction. In the fields of bodies burning, as the war machine keeps turning, death and hatred to mankind, poisoning their brainwashed minds. Oh Lord, yeah.
Welcome to Rage Against the Regime podcast. This is Becky Williams. I'll be your host tonight. We have some very important information, breaking information that we need to get out to the public. The bad news that we've all anticipated has been confirmed, and I have Jean Smith who will be joining me. She's not yet online. As soon as she comes on, I'll bring her on. She has some very important information she'll be giving out. I have a host. Sorry about that, Bill. I've opened up your line, Bill. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Becky. Hi.
Hey, how's it going, brother?
It's going really well.
Well, good.
Well,
good.
That's a lot of missing then.
Yeah, it is. It's a whole lot of missing. Have you and Bill Bohart got the Bill and Bill show up and running yet?
No, we don't. There are several other things that had come up with some proposals to buy some other websites and stuff, and we pulled back to see how that was going to go. Some things that did not happen, so we'll talk about moving forward on that, which I had a conversation earlier today. It really kind of needs to happen, but I've been thinking maybe we can combine it with this show, not tonight, but with this show. And that might be something that you and Bobby like also.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to do that with you guys. I was talking with Bobby last week about forming a coalition where if we're on at the same time with another show that has an important guest or important information that really needs to get out to the public, it probably behoove us to tie that in via phone call and be broadcasting the shows like that for a while. We've got some breaking news, brother, that, I received a phone call in the late hours last night from Gene Smith. And, Gene is a huge part of Rage in that she does so much research. And she is so versed in the area of the financials, the corporations, the ties to the...
She's a research hound.
Oh, my God. I mean, she's like an addict, but she is so proficient in it, and she is so careful to go outside of the norm to get her information. Most people just Google something or they'll throw something up from Wikipedia. Hell, I can write a Wikipedia article if I want to, and there it is. It doesn't mean that it's fact. It just means I wrote it. But she takes painstaking hours just getting out and doing the research that she is focused on and bringing us factual information, which is very important, and that's how we grow the show. We've got over 30 countries now that are listening to us. We're on to hit 750 to 1,000 to 1 million listeners at the current growth rate that we're experiencing in live listens and archive snatch. So, anyway, she's got some very disturbing information. I mean, it's not anything that my listeners, people in our circle of friends that pay attention and actually take the time to read the information that we put up instead of just sharing it because they trust our judgment. They're not going to be too terribly shocked, but it is very disheartening. It explains everything, all the questions.
Is it kind of like a revealing of several conversations that you and I have already had? Yes,
and it is so disheartening. I mean, my heart sank when she gave me the information that she gave me last night. I was just devastated because I didn't want to hear that. I didn't want the confirmation on what we already really know is going on. But I mean, it's got to be given out to the public. There is something that after she reveals this information to the people, we are definitely going to. I've got a plan for Texas. Let me just say that I've got a plan. I hope that I have a lot of leadership from the Texas freedom groups that are listening in. I've put out an alert this afternoon and have been promoting the hell out of this show because Texas, we are unique still in that we can break away from all of this madness, but it's going to take a very forceful hand approaching the Texas government and letting them know this is no longer a request. This is an absolute demand from Texans. Separate ourselves from the current events that are taking place.
Just exercise their state right, their state supremacy over federal regulations, and be forceful with it, enforce it.
And that's what my intentions are. Go ahead.
I asked one of the, and I won't mention the name in case this person chooses not to show up, but I asked one of the generals to come on tonight, and hopefully that happens because depending on what you guys are going to share, maybe we can get additional deep-seated confirmation as well. Unfortunately, Bill Bohart won't be able to make it. Something had come up just now, and he won't be able to make it on the call tonight. So, but hopefully this other general will. Go
ahead. So you have someone that you've invited to the show. Do you have an area code for me so I can watch the board?
I'm not sure because it depends on whether it's him or one of his staff. And right now they're down here by me, so it could be 714. It could be 619.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't have that yet on the board. I do not have that up, and I don't know where Jean is. She doesn't. She's usually very prompt, so I've just sent her a text to come on board. Until she gets here, let's recap on some of the things that are going on right now that are of great concern. One, for me, I'm a little bit irritated about it, but Joanne Moretti is covering that on her show tonight. Moretti Underground. I'll just touch briefly on it because I want folks to definitely go listen to Moretti Underground. But what's going on in Baltimore? I just saw some pictures on Baltimore on the local news, and man,
they had it on here too.
Detroit. Oh, it looks like Detroit. I mean, it's ridiculous. What the hell?
Well, and they're even going so far they stopped the fire department from putting out that CVS for quite a long time. And then when they finally had the hoses up and they had enough coverage to actually try to fight it, you had these people running in and they would slash the hoses. And I am hearing that there is a confirmation, and I didn't get to read it. I think that Roxy Lady had posted that, no, it wasn't her, it was from somebody else, that there was a confirmation that a majority of the aggressive rioting is once again coming from outsiders.
Well, that's not a shock to me. It really isn't. I mean, no. I know that. See,
but it's a problem.
Part of the part of the thing that is most frustrating to me is,
if you cross state lines to commit felonies, there should be a consequence to that. And at some point, playing nice just isn't going to cut it. The other thing that I saw posted about that from the mayor is and this is crazy, considering within their free speech, their First Amendment rights, she's considering the tolerance and allowance of destroying property. What in the hell is wrong with this woman? That's not included in freedom of speech to destroy people's property and their lives. There's an officer who was down today, and they couldn't get to him for a while, and it's not known whether he'll even survive. But I guess as many as 10 officers were injured, the one pretty critically, and it's not known whether he'll survive his injuries or not, but he was down for the longest time, and they couldn't just get, people into him.
Well, you saw the gangs, the thugs, have decided that they're going to form a partnership, and they're openly stating that they intend to kill police officers. What the hell?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, well.
What is, what is that?
Well, one thing I am seeing now is that some of the people that live there are actually starting to stand up and get between the officers and the rioters trying to stop the rioting. But, it's too few and too far between where, obviously there's more rioting than there are people trying to stop it. But, that's pretty bad. And you have to, my consideration was, okay, if that was happening here and my property was among the riot grounds, my point would be and some people would say, well, no, you can't do that. You'll escalate it. Hey, there's a point where you just have to, put your foot down and draw a line. I would be armed. I would have my neighbors armed, and I would put a stop to these people.
Well, it's my opinion.
Officers there or not.
What the hell? It's about to cut us off from our show. Believe it or not, it's saying 60 seconds. Oh,
really?
My
Why
God.
is that?
Will Blog Talk not do anything to stop messing with our show? Folks,
it is not Blog Talk.
I'm going to redo this. It is. But it just gave me 60 seconds.
Well, that maybe it's not intentional by them is what I mean.
No, this isn't the first time that's happened. We've been having a real problem with Blog Talk. It could be NSA, but somebody just cut me out of 2 hours to 24 seconds. To my listening audience, I do apologize. Please meet me back here on Wednesday at the same time at 7 p.m. I'll reschedule the show.
You can't reload?
I do apologize. I can't do anything about it once it boots me. I can't do another show today. please get this out to everybody. Wednesday, be back on this show. It's imperative. Thank you, Bill.
Wow,
Jesus,
that's just
God
bad.
Almighty. That cut
So
me
there's no
off.
way to go back on and reinitiate it, huh?
I think I can do 30 minutes of archive because it didn't cut my phone off, but there's no way for me to go back. Everybody that's listening right now, please stay on the line. I'm going to attempt to do 30 minutes. We're going to wrap this up in 30 minutes. I've got 30 minutes overage when it kills my show like that. God dang, that pisses me off. That really,
You'll have
really
to try the three-way. You'll have to try the three-way Gene in.
Well, she says she's listening. Jean, if you're listening, I need you to press 1. I don't see you on the board.
Really quickly.
Anyway, yeah. All right, there it is. All right, I got you.
Yeah.
All right, Jean, I'm going to bring you on, sister. I am so sorry. This is not the first time Blog Talk's done that to me, but we had some issues Friday as well on Blog Talk, so I don't know what the hell's going on. Welcome, Jean.
Hi, Becky. Hi, Bill.
Hi, Jean.
Hey, sis. We have some breaking information that Jean called me about last night. So, Jean, if you wouldn't mind, could you please go ahead and tell whoever might still be listening, because I'd given them the go-ahead to go away, but we'll recap this on Wednesday. But while we have 30 minutes, let's try to archive what you're going to expose today.
Okay, dear. It's very simple. I was just watching a video, and it was about the EU, and in the middle of it, there's a man. He's the first president of the European Union, and this is back in 2009. And he announces he's giving a speech. I believe it was before the EU Parliament or something, and he does announce that 2009 was the first year for global governance and for global management. So it just confirmed everything that I've already, known. That it's like we're already under global governance. We're already under that one world order. We're already there. And it's been out for a long time because, again, he gave this speech in October or November of 2009. But,
yeah, we know that they consider it a done deal. It's just going to have to be up to us to say, nope, sorry, it's undone now. And if we do that, we can make that happen. But if we just sit back like nothing's going on, it's just the way it's going to be.
Right.
And that won't be good.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be bad.
It's just that they have control of all the money, all these councils. I mean, they have. If you've noticed, we have more. They have more councils and more. This council, above that, there's this other council and another council and another council. But all of our treasury, our entire treasury, has been given over to this a board, this unelected, non-governmental board.
Basically the same thing that already exists anyway, a non-official entity. They're just going back and forth and burying themselves deeper and deeper into each other, and the heads of all of them have just made their groups smaller and smaller and have more and more control, but we knew that they wanted to do that anyway.
Right, we did know that, but it's amazing that this, video, you can pass it to people to confirm what everybody thinks, and it just goes right over the top of everybody's head.
Yeah, right.
I mean, literally, and do you understand the implications? Do you understand what the man is saying, and what that means, and how if we don't do something to get our, but it's just this web of non-governmental organizations and unelected councils and boards, but it's really obvious that the Congress knows about it. They're going along with it, and that's the hard part because it's
Well, those guys in Congress, they're all in, and so they need to either, to their own demise or their own sellout, they're dastardly selling their soul. They have to play it out to its fullest at this particular point because, these guys are all guilty of high treason.
That's sure about it, yeah.
So, there could be some greats. It doesn't mean they get to stick around and continue to play, or they don't get to keep their seats and stuff. But, we could be graceful with some of these guys if they step forward and, like an active whistleblower, not just blow the whistle on the real deal, but actually work to reveal everyone and work with us, we the people, to take them out and to have all of the, not that we don't already have all the evidence, but to have it organized and displayed and place it out there. Again, these people don't get to stay because they do that, but they might be spared the consequence that the rest of these guys are going to have to endure. I think.
You think?
Well,
yeah.
I will tell you this much. When she disclosed the information, and she has the video, she can get the link to you, Bill.
Yeah.
2009, okay? 2009 is when here comes this usurper, this cockroach, Muslim bastard. He comes out of nowhere. Nobody even knows who the hell this guy is. All of a sudden, he's Mr. Popularity. He's a camel jockey that they call black, and to put the whole theater out there, the black folk really believe they got their man in the office, and because they're too damn ignorant, realize that the Electoral College is who would actually be the person to put a president and a vice president in position, and there is no dictation, federal or constitutionally speaking. There's no oversight committee that dictates how Electoral College casts their votes. It's supposed to be by the majority of the individuals that vote, popular vote in their area. But that's
and they control 97% of that whole vote. That fake college.
Absolutely. So it's a group of individuals. It's not a nation. But they're, and I'm not just picking on black folks. You'd be surprised how many people in general do not understand that their votes are going to count. I get so frustrated because I even see people who I know that I'm trying to educate through this show, and people like you and Gene and many others that have come on this show try to explain to the individuals voting is nothing more than theater, because if the general populace, if the masses knew that their votes didn't count and that they had absolutely no say-so in their government and it's turning out now that it's from municipalities to federal governments, that we really don't have a choice. They're picking and choosing who they want to put where in order to complete, what they've done. That's what they've done. They've handpicked their people. So we have but a handful of individuals that have actually made their way into government that really represent people. But in general, I'm seeing patriots. Well, who's your pick? Paul Rand? Is it Ted Cruz? Is it Rubio? Blah, 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 blah. Listen, people, stop. First of all those assholes are guilty of tyranny. They're guilty of treason, okay? Period. Why are you...
Well, my belief.
That? Second of all, your vote's not going to count, so what are you doing? Go ahead, brother.
No, my belief. We shouldn't be having any election. We should be having a house cleaning. We could have some volunteers step up to help manage just the affairs so that the life as an American can be enabled to go forward, while the whole nation can then once again get together and start electing people. With the consequence and the example of what goes wrong when we don't oversee our own affairs and we don't manage our own affairs, and consequences being just as fresh as the tyranny that causes us to refresh and clean this house. But before we have another election, we need to wash these houses down. We need to clean it.
That's
the only kind of thing that we should be doing regarding an election is cleaning the system and ridding the cancer before we put anybody else into it.
Well, we're definitely in a bad situation here, and we know that they're not going to give up Texas without a fight. They're not going to do it. So Texas, I hope some of you are still listening. We're going to fight. We're going to fight because we have to. We've been backed into a corner. They are dumping at a record rate, and we know now it's a new world order government. 2009. Here comes the usurper, Barry the Fairy, and he now
the little Antichrist boy.
Yeah, exactly. Devil's minion, for sure. So he's sitting up there in the most powerful position in the entire world, over the greatest army that has ever been formed in the world, and he has managed to destroy it, and that's been with direction by this new world order government. But he steps in, and the reason now, we now know, because 2009 was the new establishment, and actually announced to a select few of individuals that it is a new world order government that is being implemented. So 2009 they put him in. I'm going to call him the finisher. And he comes in, and they allow him to take seat over the Security Council for the UN, which coincidentally is the person in charge of the UN military.
Well, you know that a few years ago he had a few years ago he openly stated that he had aspirations to, after leaving the presidency, he had aspirations for taking a high seat within the UN. And then not too long ago, you had Holder also make a strong statement, and as if it were fact, that international law trumps the Constitution here in America.
Well, yeah, exactly. So now what we know is that the majority of the leadership in the UN is either communist or Islam. They're Muslim. And we know Obama's Muslim. We know he's part of the Muslim Brotherhood. We know that they have managed to infiltrate them very deep into our government and the alphabet agencies. They're in NASA. They're controlling a shitload of operation in America. So here's the problem. Here's the real problem. We now realize that what I've been preaching for the past 4 years about Muslims and Islam in America. First of all, if you disagree, I don't care. It'll just mean that you haven't done your homework and you haven't paid attention to history. There is no moderate Muslim, okay? If they embrace the Quran as their doctrine, then they are not moderate. There's very specific instruction in there as to taking over the globe, taking over the property, committing fatwa, establishing a caliphate, and killing the infidel. Convert or die. And in many instances, they convert and die anyway because Satan is the great deceiver. And the only unforgivable sin is the blasphemy of Christ, so they get you to convert, to turn your back on Christ, and then they cut your damn head off anyway, and you know what your eternal fate will be when that happens. So, with that said, if you happen to come across one of these millions of foot soldiers that they have here, and people do not understand, I've done my homework, I've done the research, we have well over 80 million, I'm estimating probably 100, 120 million of our population in America are actually Muslim. It is the fastest growing religion. They are indoctrinating people every day. They go into rural neighborhoods. They're doing it in our prison systems. It's like an infantigo. I mean, at this point, it's like gangrene. So they're foot soldiers. We know the UN's going to use them. We know they're a big part of the UN troops. We know that foreign troops are here training with Jade Helm. What is it that they have not done yet? They've taken the government. They've taken the banking. Now they have to take the people, because what's the last nail in the coffin? They have to remove us. We're the largest standing army in the world because we're armed. We're armed. and we resist, and we're a Christian nation, and we're giving resistance to the Islamic takeover and the communistic takeover. So here's the deal, people. This is the real deal. Jean's got the proof. She's got the video. We are under a new world governance. 2012, Jean and I both have had very hard time finding any Bureau of Statistics on in many areas that has been logged.
I prefer to say that the one world government is actively attempting to overthrow us. I refuse to say that we are under them, just because that stand and that resistance needs to be sure, strong, and ready. That they absolutely are trying to overthrow us, but we are not yet under them.
Well, we are in every aspect but the people's mind. Does that make any sense? They're controlling everything at this point. Our governments, our state government, our federal government, in many instances, government in the levels of at mayor, your city commissioners, they're all a part of this little program. And the way they did it, they were very clever. They hoard them out by way of federal funding first, and then I'm sure a lot of blackmail was inclusive in that strong arm to get them to do what they wanted them to do, so that the people's rights are being stripped away, their property, we're enslaved. So we've got a mess. So here's the deal, people. We've got an open border. We have absolutely, unequivocally proven, factual information coming out of Mexico. Briggs from InfoWars actually went into Mexico and saw the facility himself and then was questioned by the FBI after the fact, okay? So our government knew full well. So now we know that the Mexican government, the Mexican military, are not only helping to fund that operation over there with the terrorists, but we now know that Hamas, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, they're here in Texas, they're in this country. My concern, obviously, is Texas, because I live here and I'm surrounded. So we have Hamas, we have Al-Qaeda, we have the drug cartels, the 1%er gangs like MS-13, the heartless little devil's minions, the little bastards have infiltrated our country. The government is placing at an alarming rate thousands and thousands of Syrians that we don't know who the hell these people are. They didn't go through any clearance. I highly suspect that many of them have been ISIS that have been brought in by our government, who, by the way, created ISIS. For you folks who don't know that, they create the war.
Yeah, that's why I was hoping that this general would come in so that he could verify some of that.
Absolutely. Well, we now know that it's being funded by our government. They're all working together. Now, for you folks that don't know who the drug cartel is, that would be the elite military equivalent to Blackwater Ops, any kind of special ops. They overthrew the drug cartel that was in place prior to, and now these people are ruthless and they're trained and they're deadly, and they impart that to their little gang members that are out there doing some of the ruthless, horrific, barbaric slaughtering of people, and they have no conscience. These people are horrible. So what do we do, Texas? What do we do? Well, I'm going to propose this, and I know I'm probably going to get a federal knock on my door after I mention this, but this is the only thing that I can see. I'm trying to do this without a revolution. Texas still has the ability to secede. We have been making a request for secession, and we can no longer request it. This has to be a demand. Now, I propose that we get with constitutional sheriffs and we start getting them to deputize the citizens and the militia. I propose that we take a group of people down to the governor's mansion, if that's where we have to catch him, if we can't catch him at the Capitol, and we demand that he call the militia to duty, deploy the state guard to the border. I don't give a shit what the federal government wants, and I hope you're listening, federal government, because you do frequently. I don't really give a shit what you want. I'm going to claim the sovereignty and the right of sovereignty in the state of Texas to deploy our state guard and our militia to that border, secure that border, and our governor needs to comply with that, or he will be arrested for treason. He will be arrested.
Well, see, there's a requirement. There's a requirement to serve that border, and the federal government has already defaulted on their responsibility to do it. But the requirement to have that border secured still exists. And if the federal government has already defaulted, the state has every right to put any amount of force necessary to obtain what it considers security along that whole border.
Absolutely. And we need to have a task force in place that needs to be immediately implemented to start hauling these little illegal foreign bastards out of the state of Texas and to excommunicate the Muslims from the state of Texas. They're vastly taking over areas of business.
And your state governor has the right to speak with other governors, and if necessary, or if he feels that it's necessary, to ask these other state governors for additional support and help.
Well, we're going to put them on the spot, and I've been talking to groups of people today that are ready to put that in place to help me get it done as quickly as possible. We are in trouble. Jade Helm is not an exercise. I propose that with all the evidence presented, that this is the final takeover. This is why it went from 7 states to now over 30 states, that we have Jade Helm going up in full operation, and it has not, they told us the time frame would be July 15th through, September 15th? It's a lie. They've already started their operations. They're already doing what they're doing. They're infiltrating America with foreign troops and with American troops right here on our soil in America. We've seen proof and evidence of it all across the board. This is not something we don't need to be worried about, and I'm tired of being told, stop wearing your tinfoil hat. This is just a normal operation. Listen, in my lifetime, I've never seen this happen.
Yeah, I want to share an observation
Go ahead.
I want to just share an observation that I had, because it goes in line with what you're saying. And this isn't fact. It isn't like, oh, yeah, I became privy to this plan. But it's a caution. It's a caution that somebody should set up an action plan for if it's noticed. But they were just showing in the western states primarily what it would look like. And the colors were different if there was an EMP and the power grid went down to the western states. And, some that would be hit first and hardest, and how it would spread. And I have to tell you that Texas was a different color. But, you know already, and I know, many of us know, Texas is not on the national power grid. They have their own grid, like Arizona's setting up right now. But what made me cautious is this, and this is something that I considered, when I was profiling. Well, what kind of scenario, what kind of danger, or what do I think would happen if there was an EMP and we had the power grid go down in all of these states? My caution is that especially with all the attention and the amount of hardware that's in or around Texas, including in Oklahoma, because there were some very long trains of a lot of hardware in Oklahoma. So my thought would be this, is that if we saw this power go out in all these western states, that Texas would be isolated, and that if it's possible then that you guys should be prepared for a move on you where the rest of the states wouldn't necessarily be made aware of or have the communications to know what was happening, and you would have less support from the outside coming immediately. Unless people were prepared beforehand, if that happened, they would know to move towards Texas.
Wow.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it really does. It really does.
That was something that I was looking at some posts and some maps. I saw these maps and I thought, this is something that I would worry about. I wanted to share it on the show today, and it's something to consider.
Listen, people, I'll tell you right now. Hold on just a second.
And has Gene looked into that $9 trillion that went missing?
I got Connie on the line. She just called in as well, and I've tied someone else in. Go ahead. Go ahead, Bill.
Gene. Have you looked into that $9 trillion that went missing with the IRS and all?
You're talking to me, Bill. Okay. To say that I looked into that specifically, no, but all the information I've come across is pretty obvious where there's the USA spending site, which they've now taken down. If you know what you're looking for, you can figure out where that money's going. I can only guess that, a lot of that's gone into the pocket of the thugs running our country. It all goes into these councils, and then what they do with it from there is hard to tell, They have so many...
$9 trillion. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, they have so many organizations set up and so many different shell companies. All these companies, let's say we've got 700 companies that look like independent companies. They're really not. They're all one and the same. They're all the same shareholders, basically.
Yeah, that's the other thing that's going to be fixed when we restore our republic. That corporatism goes away. It'll go back out to sea, between nations, not on the land.
Well, I'm going to propose to the people that are listening, I'm going to propose that you exercise your right, as we will here in Texas, and I am asking Texans to help me get this put together. We're going to call it Stand in Demand, just like we did against Perry, but service is not going to serve purpose here this time. We will not back off. I'm going to propose that we get busy, find constitutional sheriffs that will deputize, and that we march in with the orders, that, by God, you're here to serve us. That's what you were put in position to do. Government is supposed to be subservient and adhere to people's cries and represent us when it comes to the Bill of Rights and the laws, rules, and regulations. And I propose that anybody that's out of state that's listening to this radio show exercise their right to put a program together like that in your own state, secure your borders, excommunicate the individuals that have been brought in illegally under an immigration status or an amnesty status, and hold your officials accountable. We have got to take our sovereignty back in order to be successful. It's going to take a collective effort. Stop being afraid that you're painting a target on your back. You're already a target. Stop being afraid you're going to die because they want to kill you already. They're proving that. So stand up and do what you need to do as citizens, and in your God-given rights, go secure your life and your prosperity. I'm proposing to Texas that we get together, the leaders that are listening into this call, that we do everything that we can to hold Governor Abbott's feet to the fire. As Commander-in-Chief for the state of Texas and Governor, it's his responsibility to assure that we have no invasion and that invasion is being allowed. So now it's time to hold him accountable and force his hand to draw the militia and the state guard to that border, secure that border, to identify the terrorist cells that are already here and deal with it accordingly.
Yeah, and these federal enforcers that are working with ICE and that are working with the Border Patrol, they can either choose to be deputized under the state or receive their invitation to leave your state.
Absolutely. I've got Connie Faulkner on the line. Connie?
Hi, Connie.
Becky.
Yes, ma'am.
You've got two more people wanting in, Frederick and R-A-F-E.
They'll have to call my phone for me to time in. Nobody can get in. Blog Talk Radio or the NSA knew this was going to be a breaking story, so they were kind enough to cut our show off. We're doing the overage right now, and I'm going to have this show again on Wednesday, but they cut us off 15 minutes into the show.
Frederick was panicking about that.
Yeah, and that's probably why you called to check on me. I'm good. This isn't the first time Blog Talk has done that to us. It's actually the second time it's happened on one of my shows. But they knew we had breaking information. As you know, they listen to my phone calls and my communications. and I've been very vocal today with other individuals, letting them know what I believe we can do to avoid the slaughter and the revolution in our own state. I want to step up to the plate, and I'm going to ask everybody to get involved. See, it's much harder to stop a bunch of people than it is to stop a few. So if you guys don't want to endure the slaughter that's coming, if we want the UN military / U.S. military to cease the Jade Helm in the state of Texas, we've got to go now to Abbott, who had to sign off on that, and we have got to put his feet to the fire, and he's either going to have to comply or he's going to have to be removed and put in cuffs, period.
You know, the other thing, too, that people need to be aware of is that, you know, because people say, well, you know, we have UN people, they train in America all the time. Okay, well, that's one thing. However, there's no tolerance or allowance for UN personnel to interact, police, or redirect the population in any way. So if they're going to do a Jade Helm, they're limited with how, just even the military, how they can interact with the public and society, how they cannot actually restrict our movements, how they cannot detain us. They can't do any of that. If they're going to do that, they have to do it within their little huddles with paid people who volunteer for it. But if they have any UN personnel or other foreign troops that participate and detain or redirect our people, that's the highest form of treason we can see on this land, and we cannot tolerate it. We should be very aware and watchful to make sure that that does not happen. Or am I preaching to the choir?
Yeah. No. I agree completely, and the individuals that are on this show tonight and on this call need to understand that, that's absolute fact. That's the absolute truth. And, you know, what they've done, what the fiat government has done, this world shadow government taking over everything, is they're erasing borders, and they are violating the Constitution and the Paz de Comitatus. They decided to amend it without first confronting the people with the issue, because, of course, they're supposed to let us know when they're creating or eliminating or adding to certain bills or laws, making changes, and they refuse to do that. They don't give us a say-so. So in order to not look criminal, I'll just give you, for instance, Obama opens up the border for the invasion, which is a declaration of war on the people, aiding and abetting. He's committed tyranny if he were legal. He's actually not, so it's espionage. But if he were legal, he does an executive order, amnesty order, to eliminate any unlawful act. Well, you can't do that. It doesn't exonerate you. The fact that you've already committed the crime by an executive order, you can't just erase what you've done. And that's what these bastards are doing. So it's time to hold them accountable. We're seeing officials, seriously, officials. One governor, I want to say it's out of New Mexico. It's a female. It may not be New Mexico. It might actually be Oklahoma. I don't know who their governor is, but I read an article, and I should have paid better attention to it today. They're actually leaving their homes because they know what they're doing is criminal, and people are putting pressure on them. So they're actually trying to find a place to be where they can't be found by the public and held accountable. So we're seeing officials. We're seeing, people, there's your sign. They're abandoning their posts, so to speak, their homes, so that we can't locate them to hold them accountable, because they know what's coming, and they know what they've done. We've got to step up to the plate, people, or we're going to perish. You choose.
Can you hear me?
Do you want to see the things that are about to take place? Yes. Who's speaking?
That's
Hello?
me, Karen. Karen?
Hey, Karen.
Hey,
Hey,
that
Jess.
was Oklahoma.
Yeah.
The Oklahoma
So
governor.
The governor's abandoning the state capital.
Right.
Yeah, what a cowardly.
She left the mansion.
What a cowardly. Well, that's just cowardly. That tells you something, Oklahoma. Yeah,
well, I would run if I was her too, if I'd done what she did.
Karen, tell people what happened.
And it's not just Texas. And if Texas secedes, I mean, that's okay for Texas, but what about the rest of us who don't want to be part of this mess? And Texas will be eventually overcome because there's just going to be too many of them.
Well, no, because the people like yourself and the others that say, what about us? I know you guys are going to flock to help us secure it. I know that you – and see, the government knows that too. They know that you will come from all over the country to establish the fact that you two are going to be part of Texas and you're going to fight like hell to keep what we're trying to do. They know that.
This is just crazy. This whole thing, I've always thought I was strong, and I think I am. But everything that's been going on the last week, I have felt so toxic. Almost to the point of I can't even explain it. I went on all raw foods because I was feeling so toxic I couldn't function. And I know all the stress of everything that's going on around us has a lot to do with it. Probably most has to do with it. But because what's coming, I could not keep feeling the way I was feeling. And I'm watching everything from every direction. We've got these things across the border. We've got these false flags that I call, everything. They're setting everything up. A shooter in Sacramento today, so they say. It's Freddie Gray. I don't even think that happened. I think it's just going to be like the Michael Brown, which didn't even exist. It's just everything's just being staged up and being set up, and we're just being bombarded from every direction about everything, and it's getting so bad.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything on that.
Pardon me?
I haven't heard anything on that yet. The shooter in Sacramento.
I heard about that today. An active shooter in Sacramento.
What was the story?
I could never find out anything more about it. One person.
Because I have friends up there that I can call. I just haven't heard anything about it yet.
Yeah, that's all I heard, and that was about 2 hours ago, and I haven't seen anything or heard anything else since.
When we get off this call, I'll make a couple phone calls to friends that I have in Sacramento, and I'll find out.
Okay, that'd be good.
I propose because Blog Talk is really starting to be a pain in the ass. We have too many technical issues, and I asked other Blog Talk radio shows if they have the same issues, and they have little to none. So I highly suspect, because of our popularity and growth, that and the way that we present information to the public, that they're messing with us with purpose. So I propose to the folks, I'll try to find us a conference line, and then once or twice a week we gather on that conference line, talk about the production and where we need to go, start getting the leaders together on these lines. Listen, they're going to listen to everything we say anyway, but we don't want to be isolated or cut off because they're cutting off our ability to program. So if you people will just bear with me, we'll find a way to circumvent the issue, but they're not going to shut us up.
Jim? What about you, Jim?
I didn't see Jim on my board, so I'm assuming that he either didn't get the message or he was unable to stream us this evening. Okay. But yeah, we can go through Jim and use his conference line.
It wouldn't hurt to also have a talk with the executives at Blog Talk and see if we can have an understanding, hear their side of how this can be avoided, or if it happens, how it can be reset. We have to have a way, or the consideration of leaving altogether is there, but shouldn't cut it off until you have a surety that you're satisfied with.
Yeah, I'm going to get Bobby to contact them tomorrow and find out. He contacted them about the Friday show. They did the same thing Friday. people after 30 minutes on the show, nobody could hear him live. So, and they didn't log our numbers on Friday like they normally do. I mean, we're literally getting thousands and thousands of listeners and archive listens every week, and especially on Friday. Friday's a big day for us, and it showed only 14 people on Friday on our show, live listens, which we know could not possibly be correct. So,
are you going to do the same time on Wednesday?
I am. We're going to reprogram this for Wednesday. Gene, if you could set time aside, honey, to come back
same
on
time.
Wednesday. Bill, yeah, and Bill, would you and ask Bill Bo if he has time? I'd like for him to come on as well. And everybody that's on the panel right now that's still listening, please get with your people and let them know we had a technical issue. And I'm going to ask you all to help me promote it. I'll put the link up Wednesday morning. Everybody, please just help me. As many people, I want thousands on this call. I want thousands and thousands of, not on the call, but listening to the show. I can only take 100 people on the phone board, but we have chat. We're going to make Wednesday a big show. And like Gene said, 2009, they announced it. What was it again, Gene? What did they say?
2009 was the first year that we were under global governance.
All right. In 2012, he was reseated by the World Governance Committee. And 2012, they stopped logging statistics, and certain sites, like you said, a financial, what was that financial site that you used has now been removed, so that's no longer public. They're starting to remove sites and areas where we can go see what they're doing or what they've done. They're doing that with purpose because they're going to erase history and create a new one.
Right.
Yeah, which is typical.
And in 2009, after they crashed the economy, they were ready and waiting with this they call it the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. And if you don't know what that is, you can.
Is that the same kind of thing that happened in Greece?
Pretty much, Bill. Yeah, very similar, very, very similar. You know, exactly. But this new Recovery and Reinvestment Act, they took. It was almost started out with about a $740 billion budget, and that increased over a short period of time to, I think, about $850 billion. And what they were doing with that money, they were supposed to be using it to create jobs, and that was part of this plan, supposedly. And use it, all this building that you see going on, the toll roads, you know, there's sustainability bullshit. However, and that money, that funding was given over to a council. There was a council that was overseeing that money, not our Treasury. Our Treasury is not being overseen by Congress or anybody. It's just this non-elected, non-governmental board. This board also has the authority to enter into public-private partnerships. And so they're the ones who are controlling all of our federal funding, all of our dollars, all of our money, all of it. This board. So they put them in place. And in 2012, and they were supposed to document on this website. They were supposed to be documenting. And, of course, it all sounds glorious and that they're doing all these wonderful things and they're doing this to be transparent. Well, you know, when they openly say we're doing this to be transparent, you know, there's absolutely no transparency. But they stopped recording. They stopped recording, Becky, in 2012. They stopped recording. They were no longer requiring people to submit what they were doing with the money.
But
when I started tracking the money, it wasn't going where they said it was going anyway.
Well, of course.
And all this almost $1 trillion, this almost $9 trillion, or $9 billion, almost $1 trillion, was supposed to be going to all these projects. Well, what they actually were doing with it, they have been using that money to restructure and rebuild safe houses. Now, that's a totally different document I found on FEMA, but they're using it to build these underground cities and under federal buildings, under capitals and stuff, building and restructuring these buildings to have these underground cities, and I mean, it's all such a fraud, you guys. I mean, they have just pulled the wool, and Congress knows it. Congress knows what they're doing.
Well, they're a part of it. Hey, I've got JoJo who just called in. She wanted to recap. Hate to ask you this, Gene, but if you could explain to her what you heard that the president of the EU state in 2009, and then take it to 2012, where it's been completed.
Becky, am I on your phone or on your show?
You're on the show. You're on the show. So
okay.
Gene's going to recap it real quick for you.
No, that's okay. I thought I was talking to you on your phone.
Okay, well, I can take you to private if we need to, and I can let Gene go ahead and continue.
Okay, I'm going to hang up.
She does that.
Hang on, I'm going to go to you private. Go ahead, Gene.
Oh, honey, I'm done. I mean, there's just so much stuff, so many things that I've run across, in my research, and it's like, what? So this would lead me to believe that we're under global governance. I couldn't confirm it. I couldn't find anything that actually confirmed it until I saw this president of the EU, and the EU is under the same, the same control. The president of the EU, this new president, the European Parliament. I was watching a lot of what was going on over there over the years, and they're under the same control. They're under this global control, this one world order. Now, I don't know how that affects, how that affects Russia and China, except the money is so intertwined in these countries. They invest, all this stuff is invested, and we're invested in Russia. Russia's invested here. China's invested. And, of course, the Bushes are behind China. There's absolutely no doubt. But, there's not much else to say about it except we're just, being controlled, and Congress knows it. They know it. That's the part that makes me so angry. They don't have the guts to get out, to stand up and say what needs to be said. They play in this horrible game with the American people. Same thing in Canada, AU, Australia.
TheRundownLive.com. If you guys haven't visited today, TheRundownLive.com, make sure you guys do. Check out our awesome news section. It's pretty cool.
What the hell?
We post.
What is that?
Stuff from.
What is that?
I have no idea. Who was that?
You guys
it might have
go
been
back
me.
to Oklahoma.
Sounds like somebody's trying to break through.
Okay.
What happened in Oklahoma? I just caught Karen, I think, was the one that was discussing Oklahoma. What happened in Oklahoma?
The governor, she vacated the mansion.
When and
is that
why?
on the news?
Claiming the same thing, plumbing problems.
No,
what?
Are you serious?
No, come on,
Yeah.
really? Okay, but what is that source from?
Now, this was actually last week.
Yeah, but what is that source from?
You what?
Plumbing is just so stupid. What is that source from?
That actually came off of, I think, if I remember, that was off Western Journalism. But I also found two different stories from different sources, and they all said the same thing.
Yeah.
Plumbing.
Yeah, one was the local news station there, which I don't remember what it was, but and then Allen News, which I don't really particularly like them because I think they throw a lot of propaganda out. But so I mean, so the governor's mansion is empty. Now that's
what has she been doing.
I wonder what plumbing is a code for.
Oklahoma? Yeah,
so
it's got to be something.
So you know what my guess would be, you guys, and I would be quite certain of this, is that they're, and I'm guessing that that's what they're doing with the Walmarts as well. They are tunneling out. They're going into the inside of that building if they've actually evacuated the building. They used the same last year, about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. I came across an article on the White House, and they were, and I found it again just recently to confirm what I thought I had read, and they used plumbing as a reason to tunnel. They were creating new tunnels around the White House.
If they're underground pipes, in effect, it is plumbing.
Right. So it is plumbing, but what they're probably doing. See, what I think they're doing is they are diverting water. Not only are they building tunnels and finishing up their tunnels under this country, but they're building water tunnels. They wanted to build this huge water tunnel in California, and of course that was not approved by the voters. So, they have to go to continue doing what they're doing, especially with Mexico. They have to do it without people's knowledge, which is what they've done with just about everything they have done. So I have a sense that they are building their tunnels and probably building one of their underground cities under Oklahoma, and that's just a point for them to start, and they can take all their equipment into those buildings, and they don't want people to know if they've evacuated it. They don't want people to know what's going on underneath, right? I mean, it's just everything that I've seen, knowing that they've been building these water tunnels, diverting the water, because that's what they're doing with the water. And they want to get our water diverted to Mexico.
I don't know that they need to give our water to Mexico. The ground source of water is plentiful almost everywhere, really, in the real world. But limiting us from water and empowering themselves by controlling water, that makes sense in a lot of different ways, especially as a strategist. Just like all of the rest of our resources, limiting our power, our water, and our food, that's how you control or kill a population if they're not controllable. But those are resources. Those are resources that we can actually manage for ourselves if we just take a stand. I mean, we hear about these things they want to do and that they are doing. It's like, well, they don't have a right to do any of it. So I recognize their power and their danger, but I don't. It's easier for me to mentally and emotionally grasp the situation we're in, because I don't recognize their right, their ability, and their right and their authority, and there's no justification that can be made in any other way that they can do these things, and that they're anything other than invaders, foreign and domestic invaders. So it's just a matter of saying, nope, sorry, we're not going to allow that. I mean, really, it's a matter of that, and just stopping it. It doesn't mean that we're not up against a nasty, very powerful and dangerous foe, but when you grasp the reality for what it is, it's much easier to face the demon. You could just face the damn demon and stand up to it. If somebody doesn't have any right whatsoever to do what they're doing, people will be more vigilant and stand up against it. There's no question. There's no confusion. It's just we're being overthrown by people who have no right to even be here, let alone have any authority. They are the people who are acting like they're in a position to make decisions. If they were legitimate, they would be servants anyway. They surrender the stature that we Americans have in exchange for benefits to be servants for whatever period of time they're going to be in office, period. And when they're acting like they are, it's without any reasonable authority, and we know them now to be invaders. It's not just a coup d'etat. It's a full-blown cooperation with an invasion and an overthrow, including foreign powers. And we just have to recognize it that way and say, no, sorry, and take over everything. I mean, they use us to provide most of their needs anyway. We might as well just say, no, sorry, and provide ourselves. And then suddenly we have all the resources. The money, it's an illusion and a fantasy anyway. We only think we need it, but we don't. Everything that we buy with money already exists. The money doesn't create these things. It's already here. We just simply move it between us. Everybody is part of all of everything that's moved. It's the same thing as having money, except you don't give that to each other. The money doesn't create what's already here. We don't run out of it. It doesn't become more or less expensive. It's already here. There's however many billion people on a planet that there is, and everything is already here. It doesn't appear because money's created. It's already here. So we can either succumb to the frickin' illusion and think that, oh man, it has to be money. They're going to crush our economy. See, they don't want us to know this because then they don't have any control at all. Well, we just won't accept your money. Okay, we won't trade with you then. And if you're still obligated to the money, us not participating, it'll become a vacuum for you and it'll hurt you, but it won't hurt us if we no longer recognize money. Does that make sense to any of you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's the reality. There's enough. We have every means, and we can put everybody to work immediately, especially if we quit trading with the massive amount of product that's gone to China, because there are all of those hundreds of thousands, if not millions of jobs that are part of that provision, and just do it for ourselves here. It just re-attains a Made in America label. And we're fine. Almost instantly. We just have to stand up to it. We just really have to do that.
It's about to cut us off. I'm looking at the board. Wednesday, we will reconvene for this show on Rage Against the Regime. Again, I want to apologize to everybody that's still listening, that had the ability to listen in. I had no control over it this evening. They cut us off 15 minutes into the broadcast. So Wednesday, please promote it. I'll get it out. I'll create the show. I'll get the link out Wednesday morning. Anybody that listen in on the show, especially if you're in Texas, you want to get with me, please reach out to me on Facebook if you don't have my phone number, and I'll get with you to start organizing to locate those constitutional sheriffs that can deputize us. We will get this job done. We will hold Abbott's feet to the fire, and we will secure the Texas border. This is no longer something we can request. This is something we have to demand. It's time to break away, and we're going to have to do what we have to do. Otherwise, we're being set up for slaughter, and we just can't allow this to happen any longer. Thank you all for coming. Bill, Gene, Karen, Connie, thanks for calling and checking on me. Frederick, I appreciate it, brother. Thank you so much. Fletcher, I hear you out there. When I get off, I'll give you a buzz.
Hey, Fletcher.
This has been Ray. I know he's not